We all carry within us patterns, habits forged through repetition and emotion, both conscious and unconscious. They shape the rhythm of our lives, define our behaviors, and ultimately, form the architecture of our identity. Some of these patterns elevate us, while others quietly sabotage our potential. Breaking bad habits isn't just about willpower, it's a psychological re-engineering of how we interact with ourselves and the world around us. It's not a battle of strength, but one of understanding. Every bad habit starts for a reason. Smoking, overeating, procrastination, excessive screen time, these are not signs of weakness but adaptations. In psychology, behavior is driven by a loop. Cue, routine, reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the action itself. The reward is what the brain gets out of it: relief, pleasure, escape. When this loop repeats often enough, it becomes automatic. Our brains, designed for efficiency, automate anything that offers relief or reward with minimal effort. That's why bad habits often begin as coping mechanisms for stress, boredom, or discomfort. The paradox of bad habits is that they're simultaneously comforting and destructive. They offer momentary escape at the cost of long-term well-being. What makes change difficult is that the reward system in our brains, specifically the dopamine-driven pathways, reinforce the pleasure or relief we get, even if it's fleeting. Over time, the habit becomes less about pleasure and more about compulsion. We no longer think, we just do. But change is not only possible, it's natural. Our brains are plastic. They adapt, rewire, evolve. Neuroplasticity is the scientific proof that we are not stuck. With intention and repetition, we can carve new pathways in the brain, forming new habits and dissolving old ones. The first step in breaking a bad habit is becoming aware of it, without judgment. Awareness opens the door to change. Most people fail not because they don't want to change, but because they don't know why the habit exists in the first place. They attack the behavior, not the emotion beneath it. Behind every habit is a need. Maybe it's the need to feel safe, loved, in control, or simply distracted. If we can meet those needs in healthier ways, the habit begins to lose its grip. This is why behavior change isn't about forcing yourself to stop, but about rewiring the reward. You can't erase a cue, but you can replace the routine that follows. For example, if stress leads to smoking, the cue, stress, will always exist. The task becomes finding a new routine that still provides relief: breathing, walking, journaling. Over time, the brain begins to associate the cue with the new routine and still receives a reward. But let's be honest, change is uncomfortable. The human brain is a prediction machine, it likes familiarity. When you disrupt a habit, you're disrupting comfort. That discomfort feels like failure, but it's actually a sign of growth. The urge to return to the habit is not a weakness, it's a signal that your brain is resisting change because it's unfamiliar. Stay with the discomfort. Sit with the craving without reacting. In psychological terms, this is called urge surfing. Rather than suppressing or indulging an urge, you observe it, like a wave rising and falling. Over time, its power diminishes. One of the most effective psychological tools in habit change is identity shift. Behavior follows identity. If you see yourself as someone who's trying to quit, your identity is still tied to the habit. But if you shift to, I'm the kind of person who doesn't smoke, or, I value my health, your actions begin aligning with that belief. Change becomes easier when it's a reflection of who you are, not just what you're trying to do. The brain resists contradiction. When your behavior doesn't match your self-image, either the image or the behavior must change. Repeating new actions tied to a new identity reinforces the change. Environment also plays a critical role. We often underestimate how much our surroundings influence our behavior. If your environment is full of triggers, cigarettes in the drawer, cookies on the counter, notifications every 5 seconds, your habits are being constantly reinforced. Small changes in your environment can make or break your progress. Make the bad habits harder to do and the good ones easier. This is not a matter of motivation, it's design. Set your environment up to support the version of yourself you're trying to become. Equally powerful is the role of emotion in change. Guilt, Shame and self-criticism might feel justified after a relapse, but they are counterproductive. Neuroscience shows that self-compassion is far more effective for long-term change. Why? Because when we feel safe and supported, even by ourselves, we're more likely to try again. Bad habits often stem from emotional wounds. Punishing yourself only deepens them. Treat yourself as you would a friend, with honesty, accountability, and encouragement. Progress isn't linear. There will be days when you falter. That doesn't mean you've failed, it means you're human. What matters is your response. Do you spiral into shame and give up, or do you reflect, reset, and move forward? Real behavioral change is built on consistency, not perfection. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the beginning of a new habit. Pay attention to the patterns, but don't let them define you. Another key component is belief. Studies on placebo effects show that belief alone can produce measurable physical changes in the body. The same applies to behavioral change. If you believe you can change, you're far more likely to succeed. This isn't magic, it's psychology. Belief fuels effort, and effort reinforces success. The brain begins to build a case for the new habit. But belief isn't blind optimism, it's built through action. Every small win strengthens your belief in your ability to change. Lastly, never underestimate the power of community. Change is hard when you feel alone. But when you're surrounded by people who reinforce your growth, whether friends, therapists, support groups, or even mentors from afar, the process becomes lighter. Humans are social creatures. We model behavior, consciously and unconsciously. Align yourself with people who reflect the values you're cultivating. Let their progress inspire yours. Let your growth inspire others. Breaking bad habits isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware, intentional, and resilient. It's not a one-time event. It's a daily choice, 1,000 small decisions to become someone new. The path is not easy, but it is worth it. Because on the other side of those habits lies freedom, not just from behavior, but from the beliefs that once held you back. Change is not only possible, it is already unfolding. Each time you take a breath, pause, and choose differently.